Hello, Tim from Fair Play Now on the 17th of April 2023. This is part 2 in my little Suspicious Snippets series, and I've got a few more fantastic ones for you to consider today. So let's get right into it. Right at the start of the Lurgy nonsense back in 2020, it quickly emerged that this body, SAGE, who is kind of an advisory body for the government when it comes to these emergency things to do with health issues, and right from the start it emerged that there was a lot more kind of psychologists, behavioural psychologists on this panel of experts than there were of the things you'd expect to be on such a panel when there's a health issue. So instead of there being doctors and virologists and immunologists, etc., there were these psychologists on there instead, and no doubt they were advising the government on how to psychologically control the population. So you have to ask yourself the question, why was this the case? Why did they see the need for all of these psychologists? And also, why did they see the need to control the population? Surely, if there really was a deadly lurgy floating around, people would be doing what they could to avoid it without any need for any kind of psychological coercion. So that's a bit bizarre, isn't it? And just as an add-on, I wasn't even going to mention this bit, but I can't remember her name. Mitchie was she called? Anyway, one of these SAGE members, a lady, she apparently is a fully paid up member of the Communist Party, the British Communist Party. So why would a Conservative government, which of course is a right-wing party, right-wing government here in the UK at the moment, why would they be listening to a body that has got a communist on it? Yeah, a bit suspicious, doesn't quite add up, does it? So let's get on to the next suspicious snippet. You may have even almost forgotten this, unless you're unfortunate enough to live in the area, but that I'm going to talk about. But towards the end of the first lockdown, because if you cast your mind back to that, the testing didn't really come in until towards the end of the first lockdown, probably about May, or even later before it really came in, and they decided to roll them out initially, don't know why, but in the UK city of Leicester. So that's where they said they were going to be getting all of the initial test kits into that place. So they do that, and then all of a sudden, not long after that bit of news came out, came the news that Leicester was seeing a huge rise in cases, and everybody then started panicking. And when the rest of the country kind of came out of the first lockdown, the government said, oh, because there's so many sort of these cases in Leicester, we're going to have to keep Leicester sort of locked down for a bit longer. And I think they spent quite a lot of the summer of 2020 still in some kind of lockdown. This is when the tier system first came in. You know, Leicester was not much higher tier than the rest of the country, and I just found it unbelievable. I just said, well, hang on a minute, you've introduced testing into this place, into Leicester, so they are going to see a higher incidence of cases because that's where you're testing. And I don't know why, but almost no one could see the correlation there between those two things, even though, as far as I was concerned, it was pretty blimmin' obvious. But so many people, all of these people, seem to display a remarkable lack of critical thinking skills. And I wouldn't count myself as being the best critical thinker in the world. I make some sort of howling errors where, if you saw me, you'd think, oh dear, Tim, where's your critical thinking gone? But as far as I'm concerned, well, to me, that was a very obvious case of deception, really. How could people miss the bleeding obvious? So very, very strange. And that's where you sort of think, the psychological conditioning must have kicked in. And then I've got a couple of more examples of that kind of thing. Moving into the autumn of 2020, it became apparent, or the news came out, that Patrick Vallance, one of the health advisors to Johnson's government, had £600,000 worth of shares in, I can't remember which big pharma company it was, but it emerged that he had £600,000 worth of shares in it. And again, critical thinking would suggest, well, hang on a minute, this bloke's got all of this money invested in big pharma, so he's probably going to have a vested interest in keeping this health scare going, and for the imminent rollout of a certain thing that goes in the arm, and therefore he's going to be very keen for the whole shenanigans to carry on, and therefore people should have been asking questions. And yet again, any form of critical thinking seemed to evaporate on that. It just kind of totally went over people's heads, and it's just absolutely unbelievable. And then going forward about a year, autumn of 2021, a very similar kind of just total loss of critical thinking skills occurred again, because I think it must have been around early to mid-November of 2021. We were well into the V rollout by then, and it was rapidly becoming apparent that the thing didn't stop you from getting the lurgy or stop you from passing it on. And in fact, Johnson himself, Prime Minister at the time, was stood in a V centre by the looks of it, and this is on the news, national news on TV, saying exactly that. The V does not stop you from getting the lurgy or from passing it on. And yeah, that was ahead of when you had so many of these people sort of saying that the unV'd were selfish and they should be persecuted, etc. And then we had the Plan B vote in December of 2021, where the unV'd were going to be excluded from many, many parts of society. And it was like, well, hang on a minute, Johnson's just said a couple of months ago, that the thing doesn't stop transmission. So why are you having a go at the unV'd and talking about bringing in these measures and the passport and everything? Did he not actually pick up on that? A lot of these people were Conservative MPs and who were voting for the sort of Plan B measures and the passport. And I'm thinking, did you not hear what your boss said just a few weeks ago? Where is your critical thinking? So again, a very, very suspicious, weird little anomaly there, which just says to me that critical thinking just totally went out the window, probably because of all of this behavioural psychology that was inflicted onto the population, this psychological warfare that was inflicted upon the population. So yeah, just a few more suspicious snippets there. Why couldn't people just put two and two together and come up with what, as far as I could see, was the blimmin' obvious? Very suspicious, and it does make you wonder about the whole psychological issue, which is, as far as I'm concerned, a very, very suspicious thing indeed. Anyway, with those few more suspicious snippets for you, I'm going to leave it. Back soon. Tim from Fair Play Now. Thanks for watching.